Secret Empire is not the worst event comic ever. Plenty of other comics can contend for that title. Ahem, ultimatum. However, Secret Empire is so incompetently written that it is painful to read through, which is a shame because it opens with an impressive hook. 3 separate attacks happen. The Chitauri invade Earth, the villains attack New York City, and Hydra invades a country and steals its nukes. A force field goes up around Earth, but the cosmic heroes are trapped with the force field at their backs and the invading alien armada at their front. Meanwhile, dark magic swallows up Manhattan and traps another set of heroes. And Hydra has effectively made their power play in DC, taking over America entirely. That is a very strong beginning. I find this decapitating strike to be very effective as a framing device. The villains swoop in, thin out the ranks of the heroes, and then Hydra is able to take over. The problem is where we go to next. We cut to the whole life under Hydra bit. If you don't know, the school is named after Daniel Whitehall, aka Kraken, and it even says that much. Everyone immediately starts hailing Hydra. The way this is framed in the book takes everything for granted. The fact that it is taken for granted is a problem I'll get into later. We get a nice statement about Hydra is making good and nice progress in America by using America for their own evil means, such as manufacturing murder. Everyone is seemingly okay with the political and ethnic repression. Meanwhile, Sharon Carter is under house arrest and Evil Steve, or Steve as he's called, is trying to talk her into thinking that this political repression is a good thing, with things like ACT scores and bleh. Lady, you're a spy and you just got betrayed by someone that you knew. Have the decency to throw some sugar into a boiling pot of water and then dump it on Stevel's head, because you must be hella pissed for him joining Hydra and being their leader. Hydra Cap has his whole ordeal where he tries to act reasonable even though he is ordering executions, such as Rick Jones. And he also bombards Vegas until the ground is molten glass. This dude acts like a textbook abuser. He keeps going, look what you guys made me do. Look how you forced my hand. I'm trying to be reasonable. No, you're not. You're ordering executions and then bombarding cities. To move the plot forward, that kid from earlier was actually carrying a flash drive that belonged to Rick Jones. It has files on the Cosmic Cube. You see, Hydra used the Cosmic Cube to rewrite reality so that Hydra wins. Among the heroes, this is quite controversial because they perceive it to be another bridge to nowhere. However, it's a risk they'll have to take. This, honestly, is where my plot summary should end because of one thing. The plot is all over the place, even though it should be a simple fetch quest for the Cosmic Cube. I am only 3 issues into the book, starting at issue 0 and now on issue 2. This book is thicker than other event comics. Normal comics tend to have around 20 pages, but each one is closer to 30 now. You would think that there would be more plot and subplots in these books, but that's not the case. Normally, in an event comic, we have a primary narrative that branches off into tie-in issues. This book does that as well. The problem is that this book seems to take a lot of time setting up the tie-in issues at the cost of its own narrative, and creating bridges to nowhere, basically. There's enough material that should be cut in order to make this the size of a traditional event. The rest of the story is just an asinine fetch quest for the Cosmic Cube shards. That's my fundamental problem with Secret Empire. It wants to say a lot of things, and it certainly has the time to say it all, but it is long, drawn out, and painful. What if evil took over with a friendly face? How do the common people look at it? They apparently buy into the new status quo pretty quickly. What's interesting is that this book could have capitalized on the idea that people are more willing to accept evil if it means things like, the economy and unemployment numbers are good, but this book doesn't even focus on that. We never get to see the conflict within Stevel. Do we see how buying into Hydra's demands makes him grow colder, or how betraying everyone, including people he once called friends, including people he executed that he once called friends, affects him on a mental level? Wish we got more of that, because he starts going full Reich on us. Because the reality warping girl caused this, you see what I mean about wasted story potential? We could have had a nice story about people buying into the evil rhetoric of Hydra slowly before sinking too much emotional and possibly physical investment into it all. Instead, we say all of this was caused by a silly reality warping girl. Then there are the structural issues with this book. Despite having oversized issues, this book ends up leaving plot-relevant information in a tie-in. You heard me correctly. Like, what the actual hell? It's not good when major plot points are relegated to tie-in land. Like, need I continue yelling about how these books have more pages than usual? Or how we wasted an entire issue messing around with Hank Pym Ultron? So how would I personally write this story? Let me make sense of this first. Remove Francine Richards. I mean, Kobik. Her name really should be Francine Richards because, let's be honest, that's what her role is. She's a reality warping child. Jerking around the Cosmic Cube honestly removed agency out of everyone, and we can't have that. Let's try this instead. Have Hydra as an organization try to rebrand themselves as a more reasonable organization. Obviously, they'll be sticking to the shadow. Hydra will establish a set of new warriors. That will be their nice public front. And these new warriors are going to be superheroes who get popular really quickly. People eventually start gravitating towards these new warriors. The heroes, once mistrustful of these new warriors or just not wanting to deal with them or not caring, begin seeing them as colleagues and brothers in arms. But then these new warriors start pushing out ideologies that are heterodox. They don't go full Hydra at first. They need to make some of the ideas Hydra has more palpable. Now that they're trusted figures, they can slowly integrate more and more of their hateful ideas into a public front. Their rhetoric slowly leads to other heroes being uncomfortable with them and trying to reconcile that with their heroic actions. Then you can do the Jatari invasion plot, then the villain attack plot. Then you can have like a terrorist organization called, I don't know, 10 Rings, try to get the remains of the old nukes from this country Hydra was invading earlier. Then you can cage away the heroes and have the old guard spread themselves thin. The new warriors sat out in the background. They were there to hide out and win the hearts of the public. Hydra proper has been infiltrating police stations, intelligence agencies, governments, and trade unions. They've won the hearts of the public, and now they can install their bigoted rule. By the time they're defeated and deposed, you have Red Skull monologue. Look around you. We've created an organization that has helped many people and won their hearts. We've created an audience that will spend the decades to come justifying all of our actions. Take a look at the faces we chose to be our front. We planted new seeds of conflict, and at the same time, we watered the old ones. Look at you so-called heroes. Now whenever a new hero arises, you will treat them with suspicion and isolate them. That gives us opportunity to lead them into our hands. I get that my rewrite is a change in premise altogether and a completely different storyline, but at least it keeps the same theme, and at least it isn't a clueless narrative. But those are just my thoughts. Please consider liking, subscribing, tipping the channel on Ko-fi. This is Cyril signing off.